riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield, down by the riverside and study. Oh, no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna shake hands with every man, down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna shake hands with every man, down by the riverside and study. Oh, no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. All right, well, I'm Huck.
And I'm Grant.
And this is the first ever recording of Appalachian Air, our attempt at kind of a video podcast, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, welcome.
And so we just kind of want to take a second and get kind of our ideas out, because we don't even really know what we want this to be. I guess we've kind of jokingly talked about wishing we had a public access TV show, and so this is kind of our attempt at it, maybe a 21st century form, get it on the internet. I don't know, when I look back on kind of the diaries and journals of some of, the inspirational writers of the time, I always kind of think, maybe today we should leave something, and I don't know, I don't personally write too often. And so maybe this is kind of a form of 21st century diarying. I don't know.
Yeah. The way I look at it is more of a way for us to bring our passions and the things that we do here every day, and the things that we believe to be truths and we believe to be who we are. I feel that's a way for us. This is a way for us to bring those to the world, to bring it to anybody who's listening, and to really just convey what we feel, convey what we see and how we see it to people who don't get a chance to.
Okay, yeah. I also kind of have envisioned it to be, and I guess it's just going to become whatever it is, but I've also kind of envisioned it to be just kind of a lens on life as it's happening here, specifically on the shores of Leesville Lake. I don't really necessarily want it to be a platform for too many opinions.
Yeah.
More of just kind of an observation of things. And, I think some of it's going to be, hopefully some of it's a little humorous. I think a lot of it's going to be intentionally corny.
The other week just happens to be corny.
But yeah, so I think we'd like to show, a bit of the life, the woods around here. I know we both think it's beautiful. We spend our days here in the woods. And we just like to show that, as Grant said, to people who don't necessarily get a chance to.
So bear with us. It's a process. We're learning this all for the first time ourselves, so it's going to be bad, it's going to be rough, so bear with us, but our hearts are in the right place, and hopefully the rest of us will catch up to it eventually. So.
And if you ever want to be a guest on the show, please do not hesitate.
Please.
We're trying to get Aldo Leopold, but there's been some complications. Sean Muir won't return my phone calls.
And all the cool people that we know keep dying, so there's that. But no, if you want to join us in this endeavor, get a hold of us. We're not tough to get a hold of, so we'd love to have you. We'd love to share in this process with you. So yeah, give us a call.
We'll shut up now. Well, I'd like to take a moment and read to you an excerpt from an article that Pete Seeger wrote in Sing Out magazine in April 1960. The title of the article is A Definition of Folk Music. The newcomer was dragged to a folk concert by an overenthusiastic friend. Previously, the newcomer might have been strictly a fan of classical music or progressive jazz or rock and roll. She says, "This is folk music? But it doesn't sound like the same as some of those folk music records you were playing me. What is folk music?" Here's where the confusion begins. For no two people, not even professors, have been able to agree completely on a definition. The Funk and Wagnall's Dictionary of Folklore lists many which only partly overlap each other. One definition says, a folk song must be old, carried on for generations by people who have no contact with urban arts and influence. A folk song must show no trace of individual authorship. At the other end of the scale is a definition by the late Big Bill Bronzy, the blues singer. He was asked if a certain blues song he sang was a folk song. "It must be," he replied. "I never heard horses sing it." How would it be to say that folk music is not so much any particular group of songs or singers, but rather it is a process, an age-old process of ordinary people making their own music, reshaping old traditions to fit new situations. Some songs have more of this process, others have less. But even old ballads like Barbara Allen were probably influenced at some time in their long history by individuals in the popular or fine arts music professions. And even the pop song on the radio has been influenced in some way by folk music. Yes, folk music is a process, and the history of any folk song will show continual change, contradictions, actions, and interaction of opposing influences. Now this might be called, in terms of my mother-in-law, a wonderful woman, diabolical materialism. But we have support here from scientists such as the late Alfred North Whitehead, mathematician and philosopher. He said, "The process is the actuality." In other words, if you want to understand any phenomena, study it in motion. If you could suddenly solidify all the water in a brook and measure it, would that be the brook? An engineer wishing to throw a bridge across it must study it in motion, its origins and destinations, fluctuations, and test its qualities at many places and times. He must study the stream as a process. A pail of its water dipped up would not be the brook. Likewise, a song is ever moving and changing. A folk song in a book is like a picture of a bird in mid-flight printed in a bird book. The bird was moving before the picture was taken and continued flying afterwards. It is valuable for a scientific record to know when and where the picture was taken, but no one is so foolish as to think that the picture is the bird. Thus also, a folk song in a book was changing for many generations before it was collected and will keep on changing for many generations more, we trust.
It is valuable for a scientific record to know when and where it was collected, but the still picture of the song is not the song itself. If you think of folk music as a process, you know that words and melodies may not be so important as the way they are sung or listened to. For the process includes not only the song, but the singer and the listeners and their situation. In this sense, perhaps a mountaineer singing a pop song to some neighbors in his cabin might have more of folk music in it than a concert artist singing to a town hall audience at an ancient British ballad he learned out of a book. After defining folk music as a process rather than any set repertoire of songs, to a class at the Idlewild Music School in California last summer, I was still asked by a student, just how do you define a folk song then? I tried to dodge the issue. It's like two geographers arguing the exact boundary of the Rocky Mountains. One says they run all the way from Mexico to Canada and beyond. The other says no, they are just a few big peaks in Colorado. Perhaps it is necessary for the geographers to be able to draw a line on their map someplace, but for you and me, does the exact name matter much? We climb a mountain for the view. Likewise, we can sing a song because it is a good song, not because of its classification. Now, the article goes on, but that's the main gist, and the part of the article that I really took the most out of. Seeger talks about folk music as being a process, and being subjective to the observer, and this is a thing that I want to delve into with this kind of show. Specifically, with music for sure. Music's going to be a big part of the show, but also the whole concept of Appalachia. Throughout this show, I hope to have interviews with people from around this area and from all over, and kind of really discover what Appalachia means to different people, because it means something different to anybody. Just like Seeger's example of the two geographers discussing the Rocky Mountains, or any term, for instance, the term Midwest. People. When I lived in Minnesota and I said I was from Ohio, they didn't consider Ohio the Midwest, but I would consider most people in Ohio would consider it the Midwest. But things like this, and not just geography, but cultural, just things in our own mind that we have, kind of these strict definitions for that maybe don't need to be that way. And so so that's one of the things that we can kind of look forward to with this show. Another kind of things down the pipeline for this show, we like to show some of the hands-on activities. So a couple things we have coming up is here in a few weeks we'll be tapping some maple trees. So we'll kind of give a hands-on look at that. Show you that it's not so hard. You can tap your own maple trees as well. We're also going to be looking at a homemade sauna, outdoor sauna that we constructed, and we'll take you through it, have a look at it, maybe decide you want one as well. Hopefully we'll get some ice fishing in. We've been ice fishing to no avail for the last couple weeks, but we'll go out there and study the world of ice fishing. And once spring comes, we got a lot of foraging to happen, and just various types of things. Obviously, music's going to be a big part of all of our shows. And also, having said that, if there's anything that you would like to see from this, anything that you want to add or wish us to do, please don't hesitate to let us know. So.
Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back, 'cause this land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California redwood forest to the Gulf Stream water. Oh, this land was made for you and me.
So when we were filming today, we're kind of making this happen organically, just kind of doing as we did. And Grant had a great idea. He just wanted to take kind of a still frame of a little piece of nature, just kind of capture it in the moment. And so I think what we're going to try and do is end each of our Appalachian Air episodes with just a minute meditation on a still life of nature. And I want to start each of our meditations with a quote just to kind of reflect upon, take it as it is. So this one is from Black Elk. As I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that made one circle,